This conference will now be recorded.
Now let's talk about BP and vendor creation with same number range. Right, in last session what we did, we created business partner and vendor with two different number ranges. Now let us try to create business partner and vendor with same number range. So for this, what we will do, let us take another account group of a vendor which we have already created, for which we'll try to create a BP grouping and number range which are both similar. Let me go up. Let's take foreign vendors. This is the foreign vendor group. Now let me create BP vendor group for this. BP vendor group. Now to create a BP vendor group, what we need to do? Where should I go? I'll go to SPRO. What is the path for it?
Cross application component.
Slow. Server is down. Check if you are able to log into the system or my network problem.
Morning there was an issue, sir.
Yeah, I checked in the morning. They said some internet related issue. I think this is. I think it's back now. Server is working. Okay, in SPRO, we need to go to which one? Cross application components.
SAP business partner.
In cross application components, SAP business partner.
Business partner.
Business partner in this basic
Business
settings.
partner.
In basic settings,
Number ranges and groupings.
number ranges and grouping. This path people will ask you in your interview. They will specifically ask for the path. First thing, define number ranges. Let me click on this. So I'll go to change intervals. Now, if I wanted to have my vendor account number and business partner account number same, I need to ensure the number ranges of my business partner and number ranges of my vendor are same. Now, this is what the number range that is already created for vendor. I need to check if this range interval is available in BP or not. This is 151000200. So I think this is the number range. No, I think we have one zero. There is no zero in this. 1 leading 0. Otherwise, what I'll do, I'll straight away try to add a number range, and then I'll come to know if this interval is already used or available. I'll put V2 is already there, V3. I'm trying to put the same number range interval from here till here, enter, and then I'll try to save. Is this now accepting or not accepting? When you get this pop-up, does this mean your
Accept.
number range interval is accepted or not accepted?
Accepted.
This is accepted, which means our number range interval for BP is also available. So I'm going ahead with this create. What is the range I've created now? V3.
Yes, sir.
I've created V3 here. V2 was already available, so I created V3. Since V2 somebody is already used, I cannot use it. I'm using with V3. Okay, go back. After creating number range interval, next thing is to define grouping and assignment of number ranges. Let me open this. Add a new entry. What I will do here, I am going to use the same group which I used for vendor so that my vendor grouping and BP grouping are aligned. So I will not get any confusion between my vendor and BP grouping. V002, I'll put V002. Short name, I'll put BP foreign. Put BP foreign vendors. What is the number range we've created?
V2, V3.
V3 is what we have created. I'll pick V3 and save it. Now we are done with BP number range creation, BP grouping, and number range assignment. 3 steps in 2 screens. After this,
Master data synchronization.
right now what we have done, your vendor grouping is done separately, your BP grouping is done separately. Now when you're creating a vendor master, you have to ensure that your BP grouping and your vendor grouping are aligned or are connected, integrated. For this to happen, we need to do something called customer vendor integration or CVI. For that, you will have to open this setting, master data synchronization. Open this. Inside master data synchronization, we need to open this setting, customer vendor integration or CVI. Inside this, business partner settings. Inside this, now we are talking about customer or vendor.
Vendor.
We're talking about vendor. Let me open settings for vendor integration, field assignment for vendor integration, assign keys. In this, which approach are we following? Are we following BP to vendor approach or vendor to BP approach?
BP2 vendor.
This is what most commonly used approach even in your real environment or even in most of the organization projects. Let's go ahead with the same one, direction BP to vendor. In this, add a new entry. What is your BP grouping? If you are coming from BP to vendor, first group is BP, second group is vendor. What is your vendor, sorry, BP grouping?
V2.
V002. This is also same we've created, V002. I'll put V002. Vendor account group for foreign, same V002. right? Now, what is our requirement? Do we need same number range or we need different number range?
Same.
We need same number range. For that to happen, you need to tick this setting called same numbers. Enable this same numbers and then proceed to save. Now, when you wanted to maintain the same number range for BP and vendor, you are getting an error message. What is this error message?
Number range for account group has not been defined externally.
Which means now you are getting this error message. Your cursor is pointing at which group? First group or second group?
Second group.
Your cursor is pointing at second group, which is this. What is this group? If I open F1, this is telling vendor account group. Why the cursor is pointing at vendor account group? Which method are we approaching? BP to vendor or vendor to BP?
BP to vendor.
Our approach is BP to
BP.
vendor. When you're going ahead with BP to vendor, BP number is generated first, vendor number is generated second. So whatever the number which is getting first, okay, so this is internal. What is internal meaning?
System generated.
Since your BP is the first number to get generated, this will be internal, which means system will pick the next available number. Correct? Whatever the range you have created for your BP, from this range, next available number is generated as BP number. Am I correct?
Yes.
When it comes to vendor, this is external. This is external because you want the system to pick BP number and vendor number as the same. Now, if you maintain this also internal, there may be chance the same number may not be available here, right? So here what you want, system will take BP number as vendor number. If you maintain vendor as external, what will happen? System is going to take your BP number as vendor number, which means system is not going to consider about the next available number or numbering series or sequence. Even though if there is any deviation after one, straight away if it has to be 10, system will skip 2 3 9 and then it will consider 10 directly, because this is your external number range, meaning there is no rule or there is no point of sequential number. It can be anything from that range. It will only consider whether the number that you are planning to take is within the range or not. That is the only point checked by the system. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, for this to happen, we must ensure your vendor number range is made external. For this, what I am going to do, I am going to define vendor number range as external. What is the transaction code for vendor number ranges?
KN.
XK
N1.
N1. Go to XK N1, change intervals. What was the number range interval? V2, right? Is this correct? 151000200, 151000200. This what we need to do to make it external.
We need to check that box.
We need to check this external tick box. If you tick this, this becomes external. If this is not ticked, this will become internal. Tick this, click on save, continue. Now number range has been converted to external for the vendors. Let's come here. Normally, we need not come out of this screen. What we need to do is you just need to press enter once again. If system is considering the revised settings from the backend, it will remove this error. If it is not considering this setting, you just need to step out once and then enter the screen once again. Now I'm not going out, I'm just pressing enter on the screen. Error disappeared. Right? Error disappeared means the system had considered the setting from the backend. So we did not come out, we just entered on the same screen. Click on save. Right? Same numbers setting has been maintained. I'll come out. Now, are we done with the BP related configuration for vendor? Or any other setting is pending?
Uh, Done, sir. Completed.
Right? We are done with the BP related settings. Next, what I'll do, I'll define a vendor. I'll go to transaction code BP, enter. Now our requirement is to get same number for vendor and BP. Let me create an organization. So for this, let me take uh,
Amazon.
Amazon India
India.
Limited. So grouping, I'm considering foreign vendor. So let me not take India. I'll say
Amazon US.
Volkswagen
Volkswagen.
UK Limited. So I'll take V002, which is foreign BP foreign vendors. Title is company. Name, I'll put this Volkswagen UK Limited. I'll put search term as VW UK. Cars, street, some number, city, I'll put UK.
That is
Now for
postal
this
code.
postal code, you have to be a little careful because in the backend for the country related settings, system will have default length of postal code. Okay, I think I have to put this here. Okay, and this is
Five.
UK. Okay, country code for UK is what? EU. Otherwise, I'll go ahead with US. Must be 5 digits, so 5. Okay, so ignore the address. I'm just randomly putting the address. Language is English. Now I'll proceed to save this BP master. Number that we are expecting for BP is 151000200. Correct?
Yes.
BP is 151000200. Is this as per our number range? BP number range?
Yes, sir.
Now, to create this BPS vendor, what we need to do? First, we need to switch from display to which mode?
Change mode.
From display to change mode. For that, you need to click on this icon, switch between display and change, or you can press function F6. I'll go to change mode. Now, you need to pick the grouping here. Sometimes what will happen, you may not be able to find this codes, this grouping code, whatever you see here, FLVN00. Here you will find the code. Sometimes you may not find this. If that is the case, what you need to do is you need to go to this setting on the top right. What is this setting? Customize local layout. Click on this customize local layout. From this, go to options. On the options screen, you will find interaction design. If you open this interaction design, you will find visualization 1. Under visualization 1, you will find controls. Inside the controls, you will find show keys within a drop down list. Let me untick this, apply, save. If I untick this, if I open the drop down, now I'm not able to find the code for this BP. Now this is showing vendor. Now is it easy or difficult to find out like this?
Difficult.
This is difficult because this is the description of your BP role. This is the description of your BP role. Top, if you see vendor, but here also vendor. For vendor overall 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are able to see 6 roles. But out of 6, only one is a valid role, which is SAP standard role for BP. How do we identify which is the correct role if you do not have the code? Because SAP will identify the BP role with the role code, not with the role description. If this is the case, this might happen for different screens on your SAP. Wherever this situation, if you are facing, you are not able to see the code of the description. What you need to do, you need to go to this customize local layout, go to options, under interaction design, visualization 1, enable this click keys within drop down and also sort keys so that this will be sorted according to alphabetical order. Apply, OK. Now when I open the drop down, I will find the BP groups and then BP roles in a sequential order. Here I will come to know the BP role for vendor is FLVN00. This is the standard BP role for a vendor. This role people will ask you in your interviews, and in general you must be aware of this code. FLVN00 for finance vendor, FLVN01 for logistics vendor or PO vendor. Now since we are creating a finance vendor, we should go ahead with FLVN00. Take this. On this screen, first thing, if you have to check how your CVI settings are working, you need to go to which tab? Vendor general data. If you go to vendor general data, you will find vendor number as 15100200, vendor group as V002. Now is this number same or different?
Same.
Now this number is the same. Your BP number and vendor number is the same. Fine. Let's proceed with company code settings. But before we create company code setting, we need to ensure reconciliation GL account is updated. Go to FS00, change company code to AJ10, accounts payable. I'm going to copy the existing account. I'll copy this as 1. I'll keep everything same. I'll put accounts payable, foreign. Proceed to save. Now data has been saved. On my BP screen, I'll click on company code. On this company code setting, if you see, now vendor number is coming as what?
External.
External. But if I go to general data, system has already identified the vendor name number,
Yes.
correct? But when you
Yes.
go to company code screen, you will find external, because on xkn1 screen for this vendor group, you have defined number range as external. So system is telling you it is going to pick external number range according to this, according to your BP configuration, whatever the BP number you have, which is 151000200, this will become your vendor number. The system is blindly going to take this number as here. Clear? That is what your external means. It is not going to check what is the next available number. It will blindly pick this number here. Okay. We are going to map this to company code AJ10. Put your company code, enter reconciliation account. If you open the drop down, we have to get two accounts. One is local and the other one is foreign. You have to be a little conscious here. Which account group are we using for this vendor creation? Local group or foreign group?
For
Right? You have to ensure the correct reconciliation account is selected. Even if you select incorrect reconciliation account, system will not stop here. If you are picking wrong reconciliation account, your transaction will reflect in the incorrect account. So your balance sheet representation may not be correct. You are showing liability in the different grouping. So for that, you will have to pass different corrections. So that's another real-time incident or real-time issue which will probably happen in most of the projects, especially once the users are creating the master records. They might select correct GL, they might select the correct account group, but they might assign incorrect GL account. So they will see the transactions appearing in wrong account. So for that, they have to pass some adjustments, some corrections. There are different options available to it, which we will see later on. But you have to ensure correct reconciliation account is assigned here. Not that whatever the one that you feel you will assign, then you're wrong. You have to carefully see what is this vendor, which group this belongs to. For this vendor group, what is the dedicated reconciliation account? Accordingly, you have to assign. Okay, now since this is foreign vendor, I'll pick accounts payable foreign. Sort key, I'll put 001. Other settings we will be doing as per the different scenarios. I'll proceed to save. Now changes have been saved. Vendor number has been updated. What is the vendor number? 151000200. Now in this case, did we get the same number for BP and vendor both? Correct? Are we able to see the same number for both BP and vendor?
yes, sir.
Right, this is very important. So tomorrow people will ask you how settings are defined in the system to get same number range for BP and vendor and to get different number range for BP and vendor. So you must have proper understanding between the BP and your vendor number range, same series and a different series where you are making the configuration difference. If you have to go ahead with the different number range, you can maintain both BP and vendor internal. If you wanted to go ahead with same number range for BP and vendor, you have to go ahead with internal for BP numbers, external for vendor numbers. Is that right? Internal number range for BP, external number range for vendor. Same is the case for your customer. Any doubts so far on this BP master creation with same number range and with different number range?
Said when we migrate from EC to S/4HANA, number ranges are already created in ECC. Then how to create? Then again we need to create BP ranges.
For that, we will have a program whenever you are migrating from ECC to S/4HANA. That corrections I will show you separately.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so we will have SAP predefined settings for it. whenever you are migrating from ECC to S4HANA.
Okay, sir.
Because at that time, what we are going to do, you are not going to define vendor again. Vendor is already available in the system along with the transactions,
Yes.
right? What you need to do, you just need to map your existing vendor with the BP number. For that, you will have certain programs. If you go to SPRO, you will find conversion of accounting to SAP S4HANA. Here you will have data migration. So here you will find different settings related to this. And you will have SAP standard documentation, which you should strictly follow to ensure smooth migration from ECC to S4HANA. You have to follow SAP data steps that has been provided, table migration and all. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So during our interview topic discussion, I'll explain this point. This is again a point which is discussed in your interviews. In case of your S4HANA migration, how you are going to migrate your existing data, especially your customer master and vendor master. Right? So we are not going to create new vendor again. We are only going to create new BP masters, and we are going to assign the same existing vendor customer master as the same number of BP. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now this is clear, right? This BP creation. This is very important for us to proceed with different cases, different scenarios of your accounts payable. You have to be very clear, confident with the BP master creation in line with two scenarios: BP and vendor same number, BP and vendor different number. This is your first level to start your accounts payable practice. Once you have this, you will have different cases like vendor master data. So while creating vendor master data, what fields we will have to be considered about, what fields are sensitive in nature. And within master data, you will find different scenarios. Key fields of vendor, right? Importance of certain fields. Like if you have payment terms, what is the importance of payment terms in a vendor? How many payment terms can be assigned to a vendor master? Is it one payment term or two payment terms? Similarly, house banks assignment in your vendor master, payment method assignment in your vendor master, withholding tax related assignments in your vendor master, tax identification numbers of your vendor master, contact information of your vendor master. There are certain fields of this. Why we assign or why we use these fields, and what is the importance of these fields in your vendor master records on vendor transaction records? How these fields will affect your vendor master, followed by your transactions, and then your vendor reports is what you have to understand. If you are clear with this, different configurations, different concepts that you define in the system will become very easy and simple. Otherwise, what will happen? You are creating the vendor master, you are assigning different things on the master record, but you are not aware of the importance of it or impact of it, which is very important, right? These small points will create problems in some cases while you are practicing, because you do not understand why system is bringing these default values. If you have to change this, what you need to do, where you have to control the system. All these things you have to start understanding from the master data itself. It's not that you are creating a master data in the same approach for all the scenarios. You have to change your vendor master record. You have to play with the different fields of the vendor master data based on the transaction, which means based on the business transaction or business case or business scenario. Clear? It's not that within master data you will have different scenarios. While creating vendor transactions, you will have different scenarios. And how these different scenarios are handled, how your master data is going to help you to handle these scenarios by default. Now, one thing that we'll talk. So once we are good with the vendor master data creation, once we are on the vendor transaction creation, we will be starting or we'll be proceeding with different interview related scenarios from the topic that we're discussing. Okay. Now, there's something called open item management. What is this open item management?
which requires clearing.
That open item management requires clearing. Open item management is used for what accounts? Is it used for
Tax accounts.
P&L or balance sheet accounts?
Balance sheet accounts.
Which account?
Balance sheet.
Open item management is used for balance sheet account. When we talk about a balance sheet account, do we use for all the balance sheet accounts or selected balance sheet account?
Selected.
Selected.
So this is used for selected balance sheet accounts. On what basis do you find open item management is needed for this account? Open item management is not needed for this account. So there must be some logic, there must be some point based on which you are going to decide, okay, for this account, I do not need open item management. For this account, I need open item management. Correct? Huh? There has to be a logic to differentiate, to segregate. Yes, no? Am I correct? Tomorrow, if you
Yes.
answer this, if somebody is asking you what is open item management, you are telling that open item management is used for accounts which are due for payment or which are due for receipt. In short, for which you need clearing. Okay, then you'll get another question. On what basis do you decide this account requires open item management or do not require open item management? So if you are telling this is client choice, then you're wrong. You cannot say for every point that this is a client decision. Client will tell what to be open item, what not to be open item. Your client may not be aware of the impact of this, right? Your client might
Yes.
tell, okay, put everything as open item, or he might tell, no, no, this we don't need open item. But as a consultant, you must suggest your client, okay, for these kind of accounts you can go for open item management. For these kind of accounts you need not go for open item management. Pros and cons of your open item management. What are the benefits with this process? What are the demerits or disadvantages of this process? Because if you are keeping an account as open item management, you have to do additional activity called clearing. Correct? By maintaining an account as open item, I need to do additional activity called clearing, because I have to identify match of entry for each entry I'm passing. If I have, now this is used for balance sheet accounts. In balance sheet you have assets, you have liability. Correct? Is this correct?
Yes, sir.
For asset and for liability. Under asset, what kind of asset do we need open item management? Any asset? This is used for current asset. Which asset?
Current assets.
Under liability, for which liability?
Current liability.
Current liability. Normally, your asset receives which balance? Debit or credit?
Asset receive for debit.
Right? So debit is the ideal posting for asset. and credit is the ideal posting for liability. Is this statement correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, if you're creating this account as open item management, credit is mandatory for every debit posting. Similarly, reverse here. Debit is mandatory for every credit posting. And we will do clearing by matching debit and credit. Same is the point here. Is this clear? So the basic fundamental rules of your open item management. So your open item management is used for balance sheet accounts, and in balance sheet you are going to use it for selected balance sheet accounts. These selected balance sheet accounts are typically your current asset related, current liability related. Not all the current asset, not all the current liability. It is again dependent on business requirements and nature of account, nature of transactions you are passing on it. If it is an asset related account, ideal transaction for your asset is debit. Ideal transaction for your asset is debit, which means you are going to do a debit in your account initially, and whenever this debit is cleared, you will have to pass a credit against each debit. If there is a debit balance of 100, you have to pass a credit balance of 100 to make it zero, and this zero making is called as clearing, which will happen by mapping each debit with each credit, right? For which you will have dedicated screens. Have dedicated clearing transaction screens in SAP, like GL clearing, customer clearing, vendor clearing, and then there is something called post with clearing. Clear? If you are opening an account as open item management, then you will have to execute additional transaction called clearing. So you have dedicated clearing based on the nature of account. You have a common clearing which will clear from different accounts. So you have GL clearing, customer clearing, vendor clearing, post with clearing. People might ask you, what is the importance of GL clearing? Why do we need GL clearing? What exactly the GL clearing do? Or they might ask you, can you explain me a scenario where you have to use vendor clearing? Or can you explain me a business scenario where we have to use post with clearing option? So they are not going to ask you the transaction code for this, accounting entry for it. They will ask you to explain along with one business transaction, business scenario. In which circumstance do we need this option? At that time, there's no other option. You must explain a business scenario, which is a valid scenario, because you might get cross questions from your answer. Clear? So slowly you have to start focusing on the business transactions, how these transactions are executed in an organization. And for these kind of transactions, how we are using SAP transaction codes. Whether this transaction utilization requires any configuration, or these are to be executed directly without any additional config. So these are the kind of things that you have to focus on going forward, not just on the master creation transaction posting. That is not going to help us. Right? Tomorrow when you're in a project, your client is going to use different business transactions on a daily basis. Correct? They'll use different transactions within purchase, within sale, or within vendor, within customer. There might be different transactions. Each transaction, how they are creating, which screen they have to use, if there are any mistakes, how they have to rectify. All these points you have to be well versed with, along with practical cases, along with some examples. Tomorrow, if you're explaining to somebody, your explanation need not be in interview. Even if you're discussing with somebody, make sure you are able to explain it with some example, some practical business case, which will convince, which will be accepted by everybody. The other person should not say, no, this is wrong. Even if the other person is telling you're wrong, you should have your justification why you're telling this example, based on what situation. So make sure whatever the statement you are passing, you are in a position to justify it. Am I clear? It's not that I told you this, you are telling the same thing to the other person. But if you put a cross question, I'll be able to justify why I'm telling you this. I can give you further explanation. I can make you understand with another example. Similarly, when you are telling a point to the other person, if you get a cross question, make sure you are able to convince the opposite person. Clear? Huh? So no matter if you are able to convince the other person or not, but do not make silence. Right? Do not keep quiet. Try to answer something. Try to explain. The effort that you are putting in to explain, to convince the other person, will make you clear your interview. Getting my point?
Yes. Recently, one of my friends has attended interview, sir. They have asked him why capital account cannot be a open item management.
Correct. Why it cannot be open at management? First of all, is capital your current liability?
Yes, sir.
Here itself, you get your answer.
They are asking again why current capital is it shows credit balance. Why it cannot show debit balance? Like this, they keep asking.
That again requires your basic accounting fundamental knowledge, because according to your basic accounting, you have accounting concepts, you have accounting conventions.
My friend also said it is accounting. What rule? Which accounting? They keep asking back to back questions.
Right, because they want to ensure you are confident, you are not mugging up something and then you are telling me. Because sometimes, let's say, what will happen, assume that your friend had attended interview in X company and he told me the question, tomorrow I will go to the X company, probably I might also get the same question. Yes, no? Possible? If I get the same question, if I'm answering straightforward because I know the question, this is what majorly happens with most of the interviews. If you put interview questions of SAP FICO, you get a good list of questions. Agree? Am I correct? If I put Google, if I ask Google, tell me the interview questions of SAP FICO, do I get a huge list or not?
Yes.
I also get
Yes.
list segregated based on the company, Deloitte interview questions, Wipro interview questions, Infosys interview questions of your FICO.
Yes, sir.
What most of the people will do is they will take these questions dumps, they will prepare the answers for it. But that is wrong. That question is only to give you an idea. So you do not take that question as it is as a question. Take that question as a topic. If your question talks about capital, so do not blindly look at the question why capital is credited and do not read the answer for why capital is credited. Now you are tuning your mind in such a way why capital is credited. Whatever the question you are asked related to capital credit, you are going to put the same answer.
Yes.
Even if I change my question, you are not going to change your answer because you have by hearted the question and you are connecting your answer to the question. So you're not going beyond that point. So your mind is tuned in such a way that whenever I get a question related to these terms, this answer is what I'm going to give. Do not do it. Okay, that is wrong. Getting confused, getting misguided, getting cross questions are more if you are preparing based on the question and answer. Take that question, see which point this question related to, which topic this corresponds to. Try to prepare that topic so that let the other person ask anything from that topic. Be in a position to discuss, not answer. Be in a position to answer or discuss. Be ready for a discussion on the topic. Tell whatever you are aware of that point. It need not be correct, but the way you are explaining, the way you are communicating matters a lot. This is not a Viva exam. This is not a practical exam. Nobody wants your exact answer. Nobody wants your correct answer. Everybody wants to see how confident you are and how effectively you are answering. Whether you are trying to convince me or not is what I'm going to check. I'm not going to give you marks on whether your answer is 80% correct, 90% correct. No. If you are able to meet my expectation, I am fine. My expectation meeting does not require you to answer correctly, because I'm more focused on your confidence level. I'm more focused on your convincing ability. Clear?
Yes, sir.
That is where you have to focus. Whether you're right or you're wrong, keep talking on the topic without deviating from the topic. Keep talking does not mean you keep on talking whatever comes in your mind. No, that is again a problem. You have to talk related to the topic which he is asking about. If I'm asking about capital, do not tell the history of capital, because my question is not about capital, expand capital, right? I'm asking you why capital is credited, or why capital is always posted on credit side. What is capital to the business? If I'm asking a question, try to see what exactly I want. What am I specifying on my question? Try to connect your answer to my specific point. Okay. So this is again requires your presence of mind on your interview. Think before you answer. Whenever they ask these kind of a simple questions, easy questions will make you get more confused, because these simple basic questions will always be very tricky. That is where you are trapped. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Now let's say, since we are here on the open item management, vendor account, and then you have customer account. Vendor account is what? Asset or liability?
Liability.
Customer account?
Asset.
Income.
Customer account is an asset. When you're talking about vendor account as a liability, what liability it is? It is
Current
We have
current
we have
liability.
to pay the customers, suppliers.
No, vendor is part of which liability?
Current liability.
It is part of your current liability. Similarly, your customer is part of an asset. It is part of current asset,
current assets.
right? Now, is your vendor open item or non-open item? Your vendor account, customer account is an open item account or a non-open item account?
Open item account.
This is always open item, correct? This is always open item. Agree with my point?
Yes, sir.
Customer account and vendor accounts are always open item. Now, if I go to vendor master, this is the vendor master which we've created. In your vendor master, you will find only option called sort key. But do you find any option called open item on this screen?
No,
No, right?
we don't open item here.
If I go to GL account, in GL account, do you find open item management?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
It's, yeah.
It's
Did we
grayed.
enable this open item management or not?
No, it's grayed.
I am on the display mode. If I go to change mode, if I tick, this will become open item. If I do not tick, this will become non-open item. Correct?
Yes, sir.
If this is ticked, this account will become open item. If this account is not ticked, this will become non-open item. Now, according to our statement, your vendor account and your customer account is always open item. For this account to be always open item, you have to ensure this account is open item. We are talking about customer, we are talking about vendor, but why are we making open item in the GL account? Is my point correct? We're talking about vendor is an open item, customer is an open item. We have to do this setting in vendor account. We have to do this setting in customer account. But why do we have to do this setting in the GL account? You might get these kind of questions also in your interview. They might ask you, why should I keep open item management in the GL account for vendor and for customer? Why not in vendor customer account? Is my point valid?
Yes, sir.
Now here, open item management is applicable only for GL accounts. In short, main ledger. Open item management is applicable only for GL accounts. In short, main ledger. Is your customer vendor main ledger or sub ledger?
Subledger.
Your customer account, your vendor account is a sub ledger. Now, how your sub ledgers are connected to main ledgers? Using what account?
Reconciliation.
Reconciliation accounts.
Sub ledger and main ledger are connected using reconciliation account. Is this a statement correct? Correct?
Yes, sir. Correct. Yes, sir.
Now I am on vendor related reconciliation account, and this is where I have defined this is a reconciliation for vendor. From the drop down, I have selected vendor. So wherever you have selected this option, this GL becomes reconciliation account. If this setting is blank like this, recon account for account type, if it is blank, this is a non-reconciliation account or non-recon account. If I enable this setting, this will become what account? Reconciliation account. Right? You might also be questioned, how do you decide whether a GL account is recon account or non-reconciliation account? So this is based on this setting. Correct? If this is updated, this becomes recon. If not updated, non-recon account. Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Let's say. Now, should we need this open item or non-open item? Vendor.
Not
It's a
required.
open item.
This is open item. Let me put this open item and click on save. So this is giving a error message. What is this error message?
Open item management is
Open
not defined for reconciliation accounts.
Open item management is not defined for reconciliation account, which means you cannot put this tick for reconciliation account. Let's say what I'll do, I'll try to pick another account. Let's say I'll take capital account. Let me put this tick for capital account and then save. Here also I'm getting an error message.
But here it is saying you cannot change the open item management setting.
Right? This is because if I open this, so this is because of this reason. What is the selected reason?
We have not. We have already passed the transaction.
If your account contains a transactions, you cannot change the open item unless the account balance is becoming zero. Okay, this is a different scenario under open item. Okay, now let me try another account. I need to remove this. This becomes slow. Okay, till the time it comes, all reconciliation accounts are by default open item managed in SAP. What is this statement? What is this statement that I've written?
All reconciliations accounts are default open item managed in SAP.
Right? All reconciliation accounts are by default open item managed in SAP, which means if you are creating a GL account as a reconciliation for customer, reconciliation for vendor, these two reconciliation accounts, both for your customer and vendor, are by default open item. That is why you do not have to keep that open item tick enabled separately. Even though you try to do it, system is stopping you. Correct? Huh? Now, I think let us we need not put open item tick on GL. Okay, that is why we need not put open item tick on the GL account. People will ask you these kind of points. Can we keep accounts payable reconciliation GL as open item managed? If your answer is yes, then you will immediately get cross questions. How you can put this? Will system allow you? If you tell yes, then did you do it? Have you done this in your setting? Are you sure? These kind of questions you will start receiving. And if you are telling yes, I do not know, I'm not sure, I forgot, then you're gone. This clearly tells that you are not confident, you have not done this on the system, you are blindly guessing. Getting right what I mean to say? Remember, all these kind of questions you will get only on the basic settings, small basic settings, because nobody will expect you to work on all the complicated scenarios. So nobody will go at that level asking you tricky questions in the main key configurations. At the main key configurations, the expectation is only about checking your confidence level, whether you are able to get the business requirement, map it according to that functionality or not. But on these kind of a small basic settings, they will check your conceptual understanding, whether you are telling me blindly the config or you are telling me the explanation according to the business requirement. If you tick this, what will happen? If you do not tick, what will happen? Okay, I have ticked this which is not supposed to be ticked, then what is the impact? and I did not tick which is supposed to be ticked, what is the impact? Corrections. These kind of points is where you are more focused, you are more highlighted on your interviews. Okay, let me take this as a different account. Other receivable. Okay, I created this balance sheet account as other receivable, and this account is currently non-open item management. If I take this as open item management, am I able to post this, save this? Sorry. That it allowed us to create this account as open item. Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's say I do not want this. I by mistakenly created this open item. Let me remove this. I'll save it. Allowed to remove the setting.
Yes, sir.
This allowed me to open and remove because this account does not have any transaction. When your account has no transactions, you can make any change in the account master. But the moment you create a transaction in the account, certain changes are not possible. This applicable or this applies for all kind of master records, not only for GL, not only for customer, not only for vendor, any master record. Once there is a transaction posted, certain changes are not possible. Certain changes are not possible at all, no matter what. So what are those certain fields which will have to be carefully maintained before saving a master record or before creating a transaction record? Because you cannot retrieve the settings, you cannot redo the settings. The only thing is you need to pass the corrections. Right now, we made a setting, we assumed a statement stating open item management used for balance sheet account. Let me try activating open item management for a P&L account. Let's check what system will do if we do it for a P&L account. Let me create a fresh account because all these accounts are having some values. Take 5. Okay, I'm just creating an account as telephone bills. In this, if I go to control data, if I try to activate open item management, and I'll try to save this. What is the message?
Open item management allowed only for balance sheet accounts.
So which means open item management is not allowed for P&L accounts. That is what the statement means. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
The message
Yes.
indicates open item cannot be enabled for a P&L account because this is allowed or this is valid only for balance sheet accounts. For these kind of things, you need basic accounting for sure. Agree? If you're not good at basic accounting, it will be difficult to identify which is part of P&L account, which is part of balance sheet account. And again, within balance sheet, you must be in a position to segregate what is current liability, what is non-current liability and all. No other exception for anybody on this, whether you are a consultant, whether you are a user, if you are representing accounting, you must know these basic fundamentals. Save this. Clear? So your customer account and your vendor account is by default reconciliation account, and we do not have to open this reconciliation management tick in the GL of your accounts payable and GL of your accounts receivable. Am I correct? Is that statement valid? What I made now? This one. This is correct, or there is any correction in this? Any correction in this statement? All right. Now
So,
let me give one. Yeah,
if it is by default, all reconciliation accounts, by default it is maintaining the system, then why that option is given there, sir, in that GL?
that is there for non-reconciliation account, which means GL accounts that are not connected to your customer and vendor. Let's say you have taxes payable, or you have salaries payable, you have any other liability payable.
Okay,
Similarly, you have any receivable entry. Okay, the moment you
okay,
receive it, you will have to remove that as amount is already received. You need to make it zero,
yes.
right? Let's say to
Like all these provisions and all that will come there.
correct. You're right.
Oh, oh, okay.
If I say taxes payable of some 45,000, I'll put taxes payable of 45,000 as on 3rd February 2023. What does this statement mean? Let's say I recorded this provision today, or I recorded this transaction today stating 45,000 rupees taxes are payable. What is this transaction nature? Is it an asset? Is it a liability? Is it an expense, or is it a income?
Liability.
This is a liability. Is this a liability which is to be paid after 2 years or due on a specific date?
Yeah, on a specific date. Due
Right?
on a
This will be
specific date.
due on a specific date, maybe after a month, after 2 months. Some time limit will be there for it. Now, assuming this is due on 28th February 2023. Clear? So until 28th February, are we going to pay this, or you're not going to pay this?
The due date is at 28th, so we may pay between 3rd to 28th, any day.
Right? So which means until you reach the due date, you're not going to release the payment. In short, today you're not going to pay for it, right? Not tomorrow, not on 10th, not on 15th also. But you wanted to show in your accounting books stating that you are liable to pay 45,000 rupees by 28th February 2023. Accordingly, you will manage your financials funds.
Yes, yes, sir.
Now, let's say on the due date, you will have to write taxes paid 45,000 on 27th February 2023. Now, for this transaction, assuming you have recorded a liability which is due on 28th and you have paid this liability on 27th, but tomorrow for your reporting purpose, I need to know when the liability was created, when it was due, and when it was paid. Needed or not?
Yes, sir, needed.
This is needed, right? So because tomorrow something may go wrong, then you will have to backtrace the transaction to get when the liability was created, which means when did I record this transaction, what was the due date of this transaction, and when I made the payment of this transaction. So all these things, if you wanted to have in a proper way, no other option, you have to use the functionality of open item management. That will tell you when the liability was created, which means when it was posted and when this was due and when this was paid. Sometimes this might also happen. You will create the liability correctly, You will pay the liability correctly, but you might pay incorrect liability. You might pay incorrect liability. This practically you will understand when we are posting customer vendor transactions. Right? You will frequently understand something called invoice, payment. Am I clear? If I have an invoice of 10,000, how much I have to pay?
Same amount.
10,000.
I have 10,000, I have to pay 10,000. Now, if my invoice is positive, my payment will be negative. If my invoice is negative, my payment will be positive. Correct? These two are always opposite relation. If invoice shows debit, payment shows credit. If invoice shows credit, payment shows debit. Is this statement correct? Is my statement correct or not? If invoice shows debit, payment shows credit. Is this a statement valid or invalid?
Valid.
Valid?
Yeah.
Yeah, valid.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I put the same statement in the other way around. If invoice shows credit, payment shows debit. Is this statement correct? Are both correct
Second
or
one correct.
these both are different?
Second one.
If you look
Now
both
don't
are
look at my this. Look at only these two statements.
correct.
Both are correct.
This is in case of customer. Now both are correct or I need to make any changes?
I think first one is vendor.
First one is vendor, second one is customer. Is that correct? Why first one is vendor?
Yeah.
Why is this vendor? First one.
Because we are making payment to end customers.
Look at only the first line of the statement. What is the first line?
Invoice.
Invoice.
Invoice shows what balance?
Debit.
Debit balance means what?
Positive balance.
Positive balance means receivable or payable.
Receivables.
Receivables. Receivable is for customer or vendor.
Customer.
Customer.
In this statement, invoice shows what?
Credit.
Credit. Credit means asset or liability. Payable or receivable.
Payable.
Payable.
So you are going to pay in case of a vendor invoice or in case of customer invoice.
Vendor.
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 Now, according to our statement, right? All reconciliation accounts are by default open item.
Yes, sir.
Right? If everything is open item, you have dedicated clearing transactions, GL clearing, payment clearing, vendor clearing, post with clearing. Now, if invoice is received or if invoice is given to a customer, customer is giving a payment. Now, should I show this amount as receivable or I should show this amount as received? This shows
Receivable.
receivable. Am I correct? When you make the payment, this means received. Agree?
Yeah.
Similarly, for this is payable. This is what? Paid. Am I correct? Now,
Yes.
all these confusions, tricky points is what you have to get clarified. Otherwise, no matter what, how much you practice, you will still be under that confusion status. And this confusion status will come and will block you or will put you in a very tricky, uncomfortable situations, especially in your interviews. You might find or you might see this as very simple, right? When we see it or when we say it as one liner, this seems very simple, but when we try to go inside, you will start getting a little confusion or a slight uncomfortableness. Do you feel that whether we are right or wrong? So that is where
Yes.
people will try to put you in a tricky situation just to check your confidence level, just to check how comfortable you are with the accounting. They do not want you to tell this exactly correct. But if you are at least able to put your mind, apply your mind, and then come to a point, then it is fine. Now, when you create this invoice, when customer invoice is created, so assuming this is your customer account, this is the debit, and this is credit. So customer invoice is posted for 1000. Your debit will show as 1000 balance, credit will have nothing. Am I correct? There's nothing on the credit. Is this correct? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Customer account will show debit of 1000. There will be nothing on the credit side. Let's say when customer makes payment, when you're making payment, there is nothing on the debit side, but on the credit side, there will be 1000. Is this correct now?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Now, after this, both, if you do the consolidated customer account, you look at the consolidated customer account, there is a debit balance of 1000. There is a credit balance of 1000. There is a debit of 1000. There is a credit of 1000. Do you find any outstanding, any pending amount, or it has become zero?
Become zero.
It has become zero. Yeah.
It has become zero. When you make only the invoice posting, you are showing a debit balance of 1000 in the customer account. Customer account debit balance means it's a receivable. It will show as a debit balance unless or until you receive the payment from customer. Correct? The moment you receive the payment from customer, you are going to put a credit on your account, customer account. Right? That is why we have written your payment shows credit in case of a customer. Now this is the customer case. When the invoice is created, you are showing as a debit, which means receivable. When the payment is made, you are showing it as a credit balance, which means receipt. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, considering that, if you look at this statement overall, invoice is created, customer account is updated with the debit balance, which means you have to receive 1000 from customer. When the payment is made by the customer, you are posting a credit into the customer account because customer payment will result a credit in the account. So you are crediting this customer account. After this payment, you are seeing a debit of 1000, you are seeing a debit of credit of 1000. Net of this debit 1000, credit 1000 is resulting 0. Now, is your customer supposed to pay anything or nothing? Should we receive anything from customer or there is nothing pending?
It is cleared. Nothing is pending.
It is clear. There's nothing is pending. When nothing is pending, should I show anything as my current asset that I have to receive?
No.
No, right? So whenever this payment is made, whenever the payment is made, there is something called payment application, or people also call it as cash applications. Anybody heard these terms before? Payment applications, cash applications.
Voucher or application, sir?
Hmm?
Is it voucher
Application.
or application?
Application. We use this term
Oh,
called cash application or payment application, which means I have invoice 1 of 1000 rupees. Let's say I have 4 invoices. Invoice 2, some 2000 rupees. Invoice 3 again 1000. Invoice 4 again 2000. Okay, how many invoices do we have now? 4. Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Now total
yes, sir.
outstanding is how
Yes.
much?
6,000.
6,000.
Assuming case 1, payment received 1000. Case 2, case 3, case 4. Here I'll say 1500. Here I'll say 4300. Likewise, we can create multiple scenarios. If this is the case, if this is my case, now can I map this 1000 straight away to any of the invoice? Is this payment amount matching with any of the invoice amount?
Yeah. Invoice 1 and
Matching.
3. Yeah.
This is matching with this. This is matching with this. Now, if your customer is not telling, this payment is against which invoice? This payment is against which invoice? Where are you going to apply this? Now, your payment is to be applied against an invoice. Yes, no? This is your outstanding 1, outstanding 2, outstanding 3, outstanding 4, total outstanding. In short, invoice 1, 2, 3, 4. I made a payment of 1000. If I do not indicate this payment is for invoice number 1, there is no rule as your user can apply this against this, or he can also apply for this. Possible or not?
Yeah, possible. Yeah.
Possible, right? If I do not mention the invoice number, or even if I mention the invoice number, user might go wrong sometimes. He might simply put this 1000 and match off this, or this has become cleared. This has become cleared. But this may have due date. This will also have due date. Now this 1000 may be relating to this, and because of the user applied this payment to this, due date crossed, late payment applicable, possible or not?
Yes.
Possible case or not? Valid scenario?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah, it's valid.
Whose mistake is this? I paid on time, but I did not mention which invoice to be cleared, which means whenever I am making a payment, there is something called payment advice. What is it called? Along with payment, what I should send?
They're sending the payment advice or these things payment review.
Sometimes you may not receive payment advice. Okay, normally whenever payment is made, payment advice is also mandatory. So your payment
We can
advice is
customer, sir, why? Because like I have handled the scenario. So the payment once we hitting that bank statement that amount, I requested to directly I identify it through the bank transaction. I request to the particular client for the payment advice. They will provide. No?
but in case if you are not able to reach out to your customer or you're not able to get the information, you cannot keep this transaction open, right? You have to record this,
Yes, I need to.
right? You cannot keep this payment as on not accounted or unaccounted. You have to record this payment. To do this, you have to do something called payment application. So this payment is again of different types. One is I'll say full payment against invoice. Second one, part
Partial.
payment
Mm.
against invoice. Third one, on account payment. Fourth one,
Advance payment.
advance payment. Now we have to segregate, we have to understand what is full payment, what is part payment, what is on account payment, what is advance payment. So these are very important for you to understand the business process, for you to understand real-time cases, real-time scenarios. Otherwise, what we will end up doing is you will end up creating a customer vendor, you will end up creating n number of customer invoices, n number of vendor invoices. You will be able to clear all the customer invoices, all the vendor invoices using the payments. But what kind of payment are we using? Is this a full payment? Is this a part payment, on account payment, advance payment? Tomorrow you might get a question on your interview. Let's say you have a scenario for your client wherein they are receiving on account payment. How do you record this in system? If a customer has made on account payment or you have made an on account payment to the vendor, how is this accounted in SAP? So on account payment means there is no invoice reference to it. Am I correct? When I say on account payment, this means payment on account, no specific invoice is connected to it. If that is the case, how do we record this transaction? Sometimes what will happen, let's say invoice value is 1000, payment received is 1000, 200. Now in this case, how are we going to account this? How are we going to capture this?
1000 we will adjust against the invoice, and the remaining balance will show under advance.
So in this case, 1000 is adjusted with invoice. 200 is posted on account. Because your customer account is supposed to show a credit balance of 200. Agree? Because he has given you excess payment. Did you receive short payment or excess payment in this case?
Excess payment.
Excess.
You received excess payment of how much?
200.
Do you know why 200 paid extra? Your customer did not give
No,
us tip, right?
No.
This is not a gift from customer. So he paid 1200, but he is supposed to pay only 1000. Are we going to give a refund to customer by calling? No. You are going to remove this invoice which is outstanding. For you to do it, you cannot split a financial transaction. If this 1200 is a check, this 1200 is a bank transfer. I cannot record 1200 check as 1000. Am I correct? Can I record that?
No.
Can I record 1200 bank receipt received in my bank as 1000?
No, we cannot.
We cannot do it. If you do so, if you record as 1000, it will cause problems in BRS. Where will you find problems if you record that? You will find problems in BRS.
BRS.
Now, from one transaction, you will be in a position to, or you will have that knowledge, or you will have that understanding to go until the last stage. Like the subsequent impact, you must be in a position to visualize. It's not about, even if I post this as 1000, system will not stop me. Agree? If I try to record this as 1000, will system stop me? System is not going to tell me this check is 1200. Why are you posting for 1000? System is not going to ask me. But I should understand that this will create further problems, further complications, because I'm recording a transaction for incorrect value, which is my mistake. The only solution for it, I need to cancel everything whatever I did, and then I have to account for 1200. To avoid all these confusions, what I need to do, I am supposed to record this for 1200 only. For that to happen, the balance 200 has to be kept on account. And how do you treat such kind of a transactions? How these kind of entries are posted? And when somebody is asking you to explain the cases, the situations where you handled support tickets, these are the kind of problems, these are the kind of examples you are supposed to provide, not the problems that you find on YouTube or on the Google. Right? When you tell a problem, when you tell an incident, as an interviewer, I should feel okay, this is a valid case. So I should not get a feel of somebody would have told you this, or you Googled it, or you got it from some source. I should not get such kind of feel, because most of the people will tell the same tickets in all the interviews. Now, the moment I look at or I listen to such kind of examples, straight away something strikes in my mind. Now again, this person is also giving me the same example or same incidents. Make sure whatever the examples, whatever the explanation you are giving is a little unique from other people, especially on your interview. That is where you will be identified and you will be seen separately. They feel that, okay, this candidate is explaining me with a different approach. So your approach, your explanation, the way you're giving the examples should let the other person feel that you have proper knowledge. Clear? So all these points, if you are explaining, you must be in a position to talk both from accounting point of view, business point of view, and from your SAP point of view. You must connect everything. That is what you will do as a consultant in a project. Because in interview, you are not giving training on SAP FICO. Am I correct? Am I correct or not?
Yes, sir.
Right? I'm not giving SAP training to the interviewer, or SAP training is not tested by the interviewer. If I am attending an interview, irrespective of my experience, whether I show experience, whether I show my resume as a fresher, interviewer is not testing my SAP training. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Right? Interviewer is going to test my SAP knowledge. So your SAP knowledge is something that you have to develop on your own. So you need to have your own explanation. Do not follow somebody. If this point is asked to you, how are you going to explain? How are you going to convince? Do not think that whatever you explain, whatever you tell is blindly accepted in your interview. For every point you tell, you will get a cross question, because interview is all about discussions, cross questions, right? Because not a robot is interviewing, right? A person is interviewing. He or she will always try to check or cross check your answers. Whatever you tell, why like this, why not like this, why did you do that way, there is another way also applicable. Did you do it on your own or somebody helped you? If you did it on your own, what was the source? How did you do this on your own? Who verified it? All these points they might put across. So you should be prepared for all kind of answers. And for all this, what is the time limit that you have on an average for an interview? 30 minutes. Your average interview time is what? 30 minutes. And do you have any list of topics by the interviewer or by the company, by the HR, that we are going to ask you from these topics, or no? Do you get any topic list like that from any interviewer?
No.
No, sir.
Yes, no?
No.
You're not going to get, which means they might ask you anything from SAP FICO. And within that 30 minutes, your mind should work in such a way, let the interviewer ask any question, you are in a position to respond, react immediately. If you're thinking and answering, you're rejected, upfront rejected. But thinking and answering, you're upfront rejected, which means you should have understanding, you should have all the points related inputs, or the basic awareness on your mind at any given point of time. If I ask you about a topic which you have not practiced before, still you should have that confidence to talk at least 1-2 lines. Do not say I'm not aware of this, I did not work on this. Strictly not acceptable. Strictly you will be get rejected, because you are not aware of it, but at least tell something about it. What is it about? What is what? That basic points is what, if you are able to tell, that is fine, you can manage with it. But at least be in that position to manage at least. So for that, no other option, you will have to do a deep dive on the business processes scenarios, not on the SAP configuration, not on the SAP transactions. That is only to some extent. After that, nothing. That is not going to help you in any interview for you to get a job. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Because you are going to be given different cases, different scenarios, and you are going to be asked to demonstrate, to explain the different cases, situations scenarios you have seen in your past experience or in your previous projects, in your previous assignments. If you are able to tell all these scenarios as your previous experience, previous scenarios, then it's well and good. If not, you're not able to take out your own scenarios, the interviewer will give you his own scenarios. That will be even more tricky situation. So better you are explaining everything with possible examples. Instead of directly explaining, try to take some example. But your example should not be generic. It should sound as if you worked on this. Clear? Do not tell examples in a generic way. Tell in such a way that I feel that you worked on it. You may not have worked on a project, but you have worked on a practice scenario, practice environment. So this is possible only when you practice with practical scenarios. See it from business point of view, understand in such a way so that easily you can answer. The way you explain, any person will get impressed. Clear?
Yes, sir.
All right then. You can stop the recording, Raj.